Hey guys, what's up? Dan VN's here. This is Seahawks Forever. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Haven't done one of these in a hot minute, but I really enjoy these. And the feedback I usually get tells me that you do too. So, Mike Macdonald, the day after a game, always goes on 710 Seattle Sports and he does his regular weekly radio show, Coach's Show. And I like reacting to this one better than the one that just wrapped up a couple of hours ago, the more formal afternoon press conference that he does. Now, he usually has a little bit more information in the later press conference, especially when it concerns injuries. But I feel like he has such a good chemistry now with Mike Salk and Brock Heward on their show on 710 that we get sort of the unarmed version of Mike Macdonald, and he's a little more comfortable. It's a little funnier. And sometimes I think he gives us little clues into what's going on because he's more relaxed. So we're going to do that. I haven't watched this interview. This is how this works. I haven't read anything about it on Twitter. I may have seen something about his favorite side dishes at Thanksgiving or something like that. And so I'm watching this blind. I'm going to react to it blind next on Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
If you would please, guys, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel if you don't already. About 55%, or let's flip that around. About 45% of you that watch on a regular basis don't subscribe. So it's the best way to support the show because it tells YouTube what the content is and what type of viewer they should put it in front of. It just really helps them distribute it to more. Let's say it's algorithm friendly. And so as a full-time independent content creator, would really appreciate it if you do that. All the other ways you can support me and the show more directly are listed and linked down below. That QR code right there over my shoulder allows you to buy me a coffee or a beer as well. Also, forgive me if there are any technical glitches. I am not in my normal studio, not at home right now, visiting family in Maple Valley, Washington, using portable equipment, shall we say, different audio interface. And good thing I spent some time testing it out today because I've wrestled with some things about it. So let me know. Let's do this first before we get started as well. Really proud to have Sleeper as a sponsor of the program this year because, guys, I wouldn't lie to you about this. I wouldn't accept a sponsorship unless I believed in the product. This is the best sports app out there. They have something called Sleeper Zone. It's a little takeoff on Red Zone, right? Where you click it and it scrolls through every single game that's going on a Sunday. You click on each game and it gives you live play-by-play real-time results, and to each of the real-time updates for every play, even if it's a 1-yard run. You can react to that play and you can chat with other users about it, so it brings the community together. You can play fantasy sports, daily fantasy sports. You can pick games on there as we do in our Seahawks Forever pool. And you can play games of skill. And right now they're offering you a deal that you just shouldn't be able to say no to. You can see it right there on the side of the screen. $20 just for signing up without even making a deposit. They're just going to hand that to you to get started with. But if you want to make a deposit, they're going to match the first one up to $100, 100% if you use the promo code FOREVER. So check out the Sleeper app today. Before we get to Coach Macdonald, I just want to say thank you. Lost my father yesterday during the game. I wrote about it on my Substack. If you want to read more about it, kind of go back through his life and how our connection was formed, not formed through, but sports became a very strong and important connection for us throughout our lives, through all the ups and downs that fathers and sons usually have. But even younger, when, there were a lot of things we didn't have in common. He grew up in a different time. He's raised in a different time. We weren't like the buddy father and son, like some parents now raise their kids. Sports was that bond. I wouldn't be sitting here today doing a podcast. I would have never gotten into sports broadcasting. I might not have ever even played sports or become such a fan of it if it wasn't for him. It was a connection that lasted all the way up until the end. Last Sunday, which was only 2 days before things got to the point that he could barely speak, His only concern was that I call him right after the Rams game and tell him what the score was and how that one worked out, because he was at the VA hospital at the time and they didn't have a TV in his room, and he didn't know, and he was blind, and he couldn't check it on his phone. He passed as peacefully as you could ever hope that a loved one would pass. But the support and the reaction that I got today from you and from those of you who read the tribute was incredibly kind, and I just want to thank you. It means a lot to me. It's one of the things that I really, really love about what I do now. It's not just that I love sports and I get to talk about sports, and that's an outlet for me, and I like to analyze and obviously be a fan. It's the connection and the community that we've built, and that was really, really amplified today by the reaction from all of you. So I just I didn't want to just pretend that wasn't happening. So thank you. But in the meantime, I'll be here for a week or so. We'll find out tomorrow when the service is. And so I'm here kind of helping my mother with the transition and visiting with some family and all of that. So I'll be staying through that process, get to be with my family here on Thanksgiving, which will be nice. My fiance is 2,500 miles away. That sucks. But, you know, it just is what it is at this point. So I kind of set up, did the best I could in the downstairs bedroom my dad used to use to get away and sleep, so he wouldn't bother my mother sometimes. But I wanted to point this out because I'm not getting paid for this, you guys, but just shout out to Dove and to Marshawn Lynch. Okay, they reached out to me about a month ago and they said, hey, we just want to send you a gift. We don't expect anything for it. There was nothing tied to it, no requirements. You don't have to say anything about it. You don't need to give us a plug. But we want to send you this special limited edition jersey and some of our product, right? Because Marshawn Lynch they have a new line of Dove's men's care. It's beast mode. Can you see that? And he even says, you just got on the bottom. So they sent me this deodorant and body wash. And I'm telling you, again, I'm not being compensated for this in any way, shape, or form. I've used the body wash the last 2 days, including today at the gym. It is the nicest smelling body wash I've ever had in my life. We all pile into the car this morning to go to breakfast together. And my sister says to me, oh, you smell good. Why do you smell so good? I didn't use cologne today or body spray or any of that stuff. And I didn't even think about it at the time. But as I was preparing for the show, I thought, oh, it's because I used Marshawn's Dove body wash. But this jersey right here, right, which way? So the camera's always back. They said they were sending me a limited edition jersey, right? I expected the flimsiest, crappiest, like, you know how you go to Walmart and, you know, kudos, shout out to Walmart. I shop there all the time. I get a lot of my workout clothes and stuff there, and they always represent local sports teams, but their stuff, it's not like it's officially licensed, but it's not even Fanatics level. It's certainly not Nike level or Under Armour or anything like that, right? It kind of almost looks like knockoff-ish, you know, but it's cheap. I expected that. This thing, holy crap. First of all, you see that? He signed it. That's a real signature. And that is a legitimate jersey. It is a game quality jersey. You can see by the cuffs on the sleeves and how tight they are and the elastic and everything. It weighs about 5 pounds. Like, I tried it on, even though it's an XL and I could barely squeeze it over my body. It's so shout out to those guys, and it gave me something to put on the wall and give me a little bit of a background. So cool. All right, let's do this. No more delay. We're going to show this. Let me know in the comments if the audio is good. I tested it. I tested a couple different settings, because if you don't get the settings just right, you get bad echo. So let me know if there's any echo right off the bat. I can change that setting on the fly. And then when there's something I think is compelling or something interesting that I want to react to or whatever, I'll pause. You know, it'll be kind of like those music videos, those reaction videos that you see online, if you haven't watched this before. But let's just get into this. I'm really anxious to see what Coach had to say today about the game.
Yesterday, thanks for coming in this morning and chatting about it. What impressed you yesterday? What impressed you with your team?
Wow, a few things. Just finished watching the tape here about an hour ago. I'll tell you what, our guys played really hard. You had a feeling, it's tough. It was a noon game. It's kind of a weird time because it's central.
Sorry. We're only a minute in. He says that every week, right? They played hard. Which I'm not dissing him for it. I'm not criticizing him for it. The alternative would suck, right? Thank goodness we haven't heard him get to the podium or do a coach's show yet, where he's told us that didn't like the effort yesterday. I mean, I did feel like, and I tweeted this at the time. I feel like they did for the first time, I think, on the road this year. I thought they were flat early on. They just didn't seem to have as much energy and juice as they normally do on defense. It didn't last long. They snapped out of it pretty quick, and I think that was evident by how some of the game played out on defense.
You're traveling. It's a long, we can't take these travel days for granted. It's a pretty big undertaking, and it takes a lot for the guys to get going. And I think the guys played hard. I didn't think we weren't sluggish. The guys were trying their tails off, and we fought, and we did a lot of good things.
Just to follow up again, it's when I say flat, he used the word sluggish, which I like. I didn't think they were that. I did think, if you watched any of my shows last week, the NFC West mixtape with Rob Guerrera, and then my preview show, I just didn't think, even when I was on the Hawk side with Bryce Coots and we talked about it on Friday night, I did not think they were going to be taking this team lightly because of what happened in the Rams game and how much is at stake and how important it is that they do everything they can to try to get to the next Rams game, week 16, without incurring another loss so they can stay in this division battle. Because especially after what we saw last night against Tampa Bay, do you think, and look at their schedule, do you think the Rams are going to lose again before week 16? No. I think the Rams have a good chance to run the table. We're the only team standing in their way. So if we want to win this division, we have to win week 16, and also to answer some questions. We'll talk more about that tomorrow night. I'll tell you about that before we go. And so I just thought maybe that's kind of what I felt like early, is I didn't think they were going to take this team lightly, especially because on offense, they ranked at the bottom of the league in just about every category. 160 yards passing a game, 79 yards rushing a game. Cam Ward, the 33rd ranked quarterback in the league by quarterback rating. His completion percentage was 55%, right? And his quarterback ranking was 54 under pressure. I just thought maybe I was wrong, and maybe they took him lightly.
I think in each a little bit more individually, and there's some really great. I think we're going to show the team today. There's some great series of events that are really complementary and that let us step on the gas. And then there's some series of events that weren't as complementary, and we're acting a little bit independent of one another. And I think that's how you end up with the score that ended up being. So, and it's a tribute to the.
I don't usually intend to posit this often, but I want to dig into that a little bit. I think that's what he's talking about. When I say take a team lightly, I don't mean don't play hard. I'm talking about mental acuity, right? Being focused and sharp. You can run hard, you can run fast, you can play hard, you can take on blocks physically and violently. But if you just, in your mind, you think it's going to be a little easier day, then that's where some of the assignment sound stuff might show up. And also it's going to show up in penalties, just not being sharp, being sloppy, right? And I'm sure he'll address that at some point today, because that was something that stood out too. So interesting that he says that, hey, maybe some guys weren't in the right place at the right time. Maybe guys were not paying 100% attention to their assignment, whereas a week before they had to on every single snap, because they knew to beat that opponent, that kind of intensity was the only way they were going to have a shot.
The Titans too. I mean, they kept battling, and the quarterback made a lot of plays down the stretch where, some off-schedule plays that he made some throws, and so they deserve some credit too.
I've heard scouts use the term, Mike, stopping power when it comes to tackling as a safety, as a linebacker. When this guy hits, does what he hit from an inertia standpoint stop and then go backwards? Man, it felt like yesterday, whether it was Drake, whether it was Ty, whether it was Patio, whether it was D-Law, man, there were half dozen double-digit numbers where it was just hit, and that thing absolutely stops and goes backwards. How do you evaluate that? Do you look at that in that term of stopping power, or is it a measurement that you guys use?
Well, it's a great point. I thought our guys tackled really well yesterday, even in space. I mean, I know we missed the one on fourth down, but Reek had some other ones that were in open field that he made some good plays as well. So obviously we want to make that play, but you're right.
I'm glad he brought up Reek's name. There's one play in particular where anyone who wants to try and criticize him again for not being a willing tackler, not being interested in run defense, which people have literally said those things to me over the last 2 years, and I have pushed back on it. I thought some of those things were overblown. He had some plays yesterday that you could show those people and say, I think you're wrong.
But we take a lot of pride in, like, we want runners going backwards. On offensively, we want to finish going forwards. Defensively, we want runners going backwards. And normally it takes more than one guy, so that is really like a 12-1 type of idea of, let's get to the ball, let's knock it back. And we knew this. We had a really good feeling going into the game that it was going to be an eat game, really, in all three phases. So when we talk about eat, it's really how you finish plays. A lot of those hidden yardages that we needed to go in our favor. And defensively, we did that a good bit to get them to second and long. Offensively, I thought we finished runs going forward, which is a positive. There's a couple we got to get cleaned up. And special teams, I thought we played a great game up, in exception for the punt return. You can't live like that. You can't live with, living in the exception world. But so overall, I thought it was positive. But you're also leaving it saying, hey, look, we got to play better in some of these other areas.
We got a ton of questions about your team that we'll get to in a moment. But it's twice now I've heard you talk about Cam Ward, and it sounds like you were pretty impressed with what you saw.
I was,
talking about him all morning. Like,
I
was.
Yeah, I was. He's slippery. There's a strength and a slipperiness to his game, and he's a hard time.
How many of you watched Bryce's show, The Hawk's Eye, on Friday when we did the preview of this show? He asked me, what worries you about this team? And my general answer was nothing. The only way we should lose to that team is if we play our absolute worst and they play their absolute best. But I prefaced it and qualified it by saying, and y'all know, you should know that I'm a Coug, right? I mean, I guess if that doesn't prove it, right? I said, Cam doesn't get enough credit for what he can do with his legs and his mobility and his playmaking ability. He's really creative and Mahomes-like and young Russ-like. And I think I even said, if they have a chance to beat us, it's because he's out there just making crazy off-schedule plays. It's exactly how it played out. Now, why did he have to play his best game against us Sunday? That kind of stinks. I wish he would have waited one more week to put it all together. But you can see the confidence growing. I've always been a Cam Ward believer. A lot of people knock him because he got off to a rough start with a bad supporting cast, as most young quarterbacks do. That he didn't deserve to go number one. It was only because it was a bad class. And so I think there was some tendency to discount him as a prospect. I've always believed in Cam Ward. I'm on record as saying that. Not just the talent, the arm, quickest release I've ever seen, off platform, all those different things he can do, but the leadership and the work ethic are special as well. He's going to be an upper tier quarterback in this league. I had just hoped he would have waited maybe another week to show us, to kind of have his breakout game.
Tough guy to get on the ground, going into the game, they were taking a lot of sacks, and I thought you keep seeing him improve, I guess is my point. And so it's, hats off to him, and he'll continue to get improvement. And the arm talent is there. I mean, he's threw a couple balls in some windows where we don't normally see, and was able to move the sticks that way. So we gotta get cleaned up on that front. But
it's interesting. So I didn't mention McNair, but having played McNair a couple times back in the day in the division with him, there is just a just a sturdiness to him, and then that elusiveness. You're like, man, he shouldn't be able to get out of D-Law's grip or some
Right.
of these guys, but he did. Hey, can you tell me what EAT is? EAT an acronym as well? When you said this was an EAT game, or is that
Yeah,
just
it's funny. I mean, it all started with, effort, ankles, and tackling, and then we moved it to offense, and then we actually, CP is really the guy, Chris Parcher is really the guy who came up with it. And we actually came up this week, we're like, hey, what does the A stand for? And CP's like, I don't even remember. It's just a way, it's just a way of life, it's just how we operate. So it's really just our kind of, our just rallying cry of how we want to finish plays as a team, and having respect for the game that like the hidden yard stuff matters. How you finish plays on the sideline, how you finish tackles, how you finish on the right angles of blocks and where the ball is, and how you split double teams, all those things, that adds up. There's a huge difference in our league between 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6. It's a huge difference. So, we understand that those things add up over the course of a game.
effort?
Did I answer that? Or just
That's
black
pretty
out
good.
there?
Yeah, both.
Hey, I wasn't going to ask you about this, but it does lead to this, and I don't want to get you fined. So, so please don't get fined on this. But is there ever going to be a hip drop tackle called? Like when JSN, I think, broke the record, actually, that reception that ended up breaking the record, and it's hard to tackle guys, and he's really hard with his center of gravity. But if there was ever a textbook, I'm going to go high, I'm going to drop down, and I'm going to go right to the ankle. Like, is that just out the window now? Is that not something that's ever going to be called in the game?
I think it is one of the penalties. One, I think it's hard to call in real time because there's a lot of criteria that goes to it. So a lot of the way that the league has been enforcing it is through fines. That's how it's been showing up.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So
that makes some sense.
I'm not going to.
So even fines for plays that aren't called on the field.
Yeah. I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's just, it's the way it goes, as they review the tape and all that type of stuff. But, and I honestly, Brock, I didn't watch it through that lens of seeing, like, did he hit all 3 criteria of the hip drop? It didn't look great by any stretch, but sometimes there's some tackles that look really bad that by the letter of the law aren't illegal, so
Gotcha.
I can't tell you whether it hit all the criteria or not, but it will probably be a play that we turn in, get some clarification, so we'll see.
I'm going to ask you in advance for a little grace on this question because I'm not entirely sure how to ask it. And it's a little outside of what we're capable of knowing from our position, but it has to do with some of the personality of this team. We're not in the locker room every day. We don't get a chance to know them the way you do. It strikes me, and Brock and I have talked about it a little bit over the last few weeks, that from the outside, they seem almost fun-loving. There seems to be a joy that they play with. Some teams play the disrespect card all the time and are angry and tough guys and emotional. And this team seems, at least from the outside, to be almost fun-loving. Is that a fair description of them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I understand I get this similar feeling from the guys. It's funny when we were like describing what we want our team to be, like fun. Like they kept asking me, like, what about fun? Like, what does fun mean? And I'm like, nah, it's not fun. They're just like, we're not having fun. We're working it. But it's like, you think about it, you're like, well, having fun is like doing the process with the guys, with your boys, like, and then it's like doing high powered stuff and realizing like how it all plays off one another and understanding like the power of that. And, to me, that's fun. It's not just like fun and games. It's just like it's doing some great stuff with the guys that have a lot of respect for and you love, and you're trying to do something really special together. Like that, to me, that's fun. But our guys have been like the spirit we're trying to create of like loose and focused, I think, is definitely on its way. I mean, the guys are shadow boxing all the time. I mean, they're having a great time, and then laughing, and competing, and doing all just enjoying each other's company. But then when it's time to, do what we need to do to, get our work done, they do a great job of kind of clicking in, and then we knock it out. And it's not like, okay, hey, it's time to work, and all of a sudden we're like super. It's just now we're back to focus. We're trying to get something done, and let's keep it moving forward, which is really cool.
I do really like the personality of this team. I mean, how can you not, right? It is a really cool blend between guys that are just like all business, right? Like Sam Darnold, kind of understated, and JSN, even although he has an ease about his demeanor, he's just very down to business, kind of meat and potatoes. And then you have the guys like Devin Witherspoon that have some personality to them. And Ernest Jones, who has no filter and isn't afraid to say whatever he wants to say. A couple of things I want to say. First of all, I saw something in the comments. When we're done with this interview, get to your comments and all your questions and everything else. Saw a mention. I know I brought it up earlier. I brought it up a couple times about Bryce's show. One of the reasons I wanted to go in the time slot I did tonight is because tonight at I think 8 or maybe it's 8:30, Bryce and Michael Thompson do their aftermath show. And so, I didn't want to do like a full technical breakdown with my analysis and everything of yesterday because of, it's been a whole day now and everything that's happened. Thought this was kind of the better way for me to react to the show, but also wanted to be done in time because I know a lot of you cross over and your common viewers that you can get to his show and I can pop in there as well and be in on the comments at the same time. Let me do this though before we continue because I want to let you know about Omaha Steaks, right? This is the time of year that we do a couple of things. We give gifts and we eat, right? And if you get tired of turkey, what better way to pivot from that than beef? And what better place to get great beef from than Omaha Steaks? Family-run business, been in business for over 100 years, been a part of my family, right? My dad used to order Omaha Steaks all the time. They come individually cryo-packed, cold-packed, straight delivered to your door. 100% USDA certified, really great steaks, and they're so good for gifts. My older brother surprised me a couple years ago on my birthday by sending me a giant case of Omaha Steaks with a bunch of different cuts in them. That's kind of the best way to experience them, and this is the best time to experience them. They call it their Sizzle All the Way sale, 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. But wait, there's more. For being a viewer of this program, if you use the promo code FOREVER, you get an additional $35 off at checkout. So it'll offset your shipping or anything else you want to add on to the order. So 50% off site-wide, an additional $35 off at checkout, omahasteaks.com. Use the promo code FOREVER. All right, let's get back to this.
You played the emotion card. Like, to me, it's like, how many times can you play that card? It kind of goes against our, what we're trying. Every time we go out on the field, we're trying to uphold a certain standard type of philosophy rather than like, okay, like with this game, we're going to be emotional. With this game, we're not, or this is a practice where we can take it easy. Or this is just a walkthrough. Like it lends itself to some of that thinking, which you're trying to eliminate.
We know you were a dual sport star in high school. I saw your swings there at T-Mobile at batting practice. I said to Salk earlier in the show that now every time Sam lets the ball go and it's JSN on the other end, it feels like Cal Raleigh. Every time Cal Raleigh hit the ball in the air, you're like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to end well. Do you find yourself knowing the play call that's coming in and seeing the different looks? And if you get a one-on-one and the minute Sam releases it, are you finding yourself with that same, I'll play that fun card again? Or kind of what goes through your mind as that ball's in the air heading 11's way?
Well, I wish I would be a little bit more on it, a little more frequently, sometimes I'm thinking about what's going on next on defense. So sometimes my mind's in it, like what's going right there in those plays. Sometimes I'm locked into exactly what the offense is doing, just to be 100% honest.
Yeah.
But when it does, like we had the touchdown to Jax in the end zone. That was a hairy thing that Sam did a great job of getting us lined up. We were behind on the play count or the play clock. The earlier explosive to Jax was cool. You see how the play kind of comes together, and you understand that, like, it's protection takes a lot of time to let him get down the field. So, how the protection holds up, all that type of stuff. What are they doing on defense? I was trying to like call out in my mind what Denard was calling, because there's a lot of similar stuff. So there's a lot going on in your mind, I guess, is what I'm getting at. But yeah, it's exciting.
Brock and I were talking about him earlier, unsurprisingly, given the record and given the game he had yesterday. And Brock was sort of referring to him as almost a quiet wide receiver, not on the field, not with his play, but compared to a lot of the top wide receivers in the game who can be noisy, who can be demanding, who want the ball, who can just be a challenge at times for the team around him to deal with. How valuable is it to have a guy who's a number one wide receiver that doesn't create a lot of extra noise?
Great question.
Look, I mean, I don't want the answer to say like that it discounts like Jax's competitiveness. So, like, by all accounts, he is really at every level that he's been at. What all of his teammates and all of his coaches have said is this guy is just an absolute dog. and how he competes. And I felt that at Michigan when we played him, and then we felt it since we walked in the door. I mean, what are the stats in that Ohio State game? I mean, he must have gone for like one. What was it like? Can somebody look that up quickly? It's like 150.
The Rose Bowl game?
No, and the snow game in
Michigan.
21.
Oh, the snow game.
State, Michigan.
I mean,
Lyle will get right on
he
that.
caught a lot of balls for a lot of yards. Let's put it that way. And some like high leverage situations too. But look, I can just speak to Jax and the type of guy he is. He's just, I think he's very determined to become the player that he's becoming, which is really great. And talk about having a player that has a vision for himself that's aligned with the way the organization sees him, which is really cool. Shows you the power behind that. And the power of being a great teammate too. I'm thinking of like, you're talking in Cooper Kupp. Like, I mean, this guy is Hall of Fame receiver who's a Triple Crown winner, and what he's poured into Jax as well. Try to build his teammates up. I mean, that's really cool. I think that rubs off on the rest of the team, including Jax. And then, and it just shows you the type of guy he is. He's just a great dude. He's a great dude that's really competitive, and he loves his team. He loves his teammates, and he wants to win. And one of the best ways for us to win is to get him the ball as many times as we can. But it's also, to have success on offense and play complementary, football and all three. I mean, all that type of stuff matters. And so he's bought in on all that, which is awesome. It shows a great example for the rest of the guys.
Two things I want to say about that. First of all, tomorrow night I'm going to do a show I'm calling Red Flags and Green Flags. Right? We're going to take an honest look with 6 games left in the regular season at what are the red flags on this team? What are the things that are happening on the field that are cause for concern that might limit them or hold them back from going as far as we want them to go and as far as they want them to go this year, right? That they might not be able to fix until the offseason, versus some green flags that do give us reason to believe that they can go all the way. Have a feeling that JSN is going to be featured pretty prominently in one of those things. Spoiler alert, maybe both. Also, just to piggyback on what he was saying, I've had an opportunity to interact with JSN a couple of times, including one time that we had a nice little chat for about 10 minutes in my previous career, and I can echo everything he said. He is genuinely, I've met many, 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 many professional athletes, musicians, etc., mostly athletes. He is one of the most genuine, real, nice, kind, giving, humble professional athletes who has elite talent that I've ever met or interacted with in my life. And I got the opportunity to meet his dad and his mom and his mom's partner, because her and his dad aren't together anymore. And you can see where it comes from. It's just phenomenal, which just makes you want a guy to succeed even more.
Okay, so what's your guess? We got the numbers. I know you football.
But also means they need to make sure that he's a Seahawk for life.
Well, guys, you never forget some of these things. What's your guess on that?
Okay, I'm going to say, I want to either say it was 9 or 11 catches for like 143.
Close. 11 for 127.
That's pretty good.
Yep, you're right there. That was in the
It's
snow.
only 4 years ago.
Yeah, by the way, in the snow in that game, but you never forget. That went the way of the Wolverines, I believe, though, did it not?
Yeah, we won despite
Yes, you did.
him not being covered.
Hey,
All right,
can
I'm going to ask you about a guy that I've never asked about before, Jason Myers, and not about his field goals.
The kickoffs.
We got to talk about the kickoffs.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
There was a stat that came out last week, and I'm probably going to focus on this a little more heavily in a show in a little bit, where kudos to Jay Harbaugh, the way that the Seahawks are executing how they kick the ball directionally, where they place it in the landing zone and how they cover it. They're number 2 in the league in EPA added on kickoffs, right? They're literally, they talked about it a lot on the broadcast yesterday, which I thought was great. They're trying to introduce some more of these analytics into these broadcasts, which is kind of funny sometimes because you can tell that the guys that are talking about it at times don't fully understand it, but they're trying to regurgitate it. But it's an important aspect of what the Seahawks have done.
we're almost comparing it to a golf deal where you now with the kickoffs have to have some distance control in terms of how deep you're kicking the ball and trying to get it to land in this landing area.
Right.
What has made him so effective at it?
Well, I mean, he's a really talented guy, and then it takes a lot of work to do. Like it looks simple in what he's doing, but I mean, to your point, I mean, it's very measured in how long the ball is going, and the direction where it's going, and how he's hitting the ball is also like a really really cool skill. And I haven't talked to Jay about it, but it does feel like he made the adjustment, like they were catching some of those dirty balls on the fly, like further down the field, and he made an adjustment. So okay, now we're going to kick it to the back end line. And that really helped us. And it's such a high leverage play now is the kickoff. I mean, teams are scoring touchdowns. If you screw it up, they could get the ball, at the 40-yard line or at the 35. And if you do it right, you're starting drives at the 20, 25-yard line, and that's a tremendous. I mean, we're talking about nerd out. It's expected points, but like if you start a drive, let's just say you start a drive at the 25 versus the 35, that's basically like a point. I had 1 point for the Seahawks, so like the one that the guy, dropped out of bounds. I haven't seen what the expected points on there, but it's probably around, 1.5 to 2 points for us and just in one play. So that's some big time stuff that really helps us.
All right. We can nerd out a little more because I enjoyed some of the football conversation last week. We talk about simulated pressures. You'll hear analysts talking about that, broadcasters talking about all of these different simulated pressures. Mike, years ago, I did a Rocky Long, the old disciple of the double eagle, and Rocky and then his tree, like their guys would find, and one of the guys, I said, frankly, how many different ways can you get to double eagle at the snap? And he said, we figured 42, somewhere between like 42 and 44 different iterations with all their personnel that on the snap, you kind of get to that front that they want to get to, right?
Yep.
When it comes to your simulated pressures, have you ever counted how many of them you've got in your voluminous playbook?
I'm going to disappoint you guys. We do not run a lot of simulated pressures.
Oh,
People say we do, but we really don't.
What?
We have them.
So what do you call them? What do you, or how do you?
No, that's what we call them. If we bring one, drop one, bring two, drop two, like the way we define simulated pressures is like you're rushing four, you're just bringing an unaccounted for guy and dropping an accounted for guy,
Yep.
But we just don't run a lot. I think we called 4 yesterday and none of them worked. So,
well, you kind of got.
I think he kind of blew my mind. This is why I like reacting to this instead of the podium stuff. Because this isn't going to come up then unless someone hears it on the show and follows up with it. That's crazy. How many times, if I had $1 for every time I heard the term sim pressure, I'd be doing pretty well. If I had $1 for every time I've used the term, like people have talked about his defensive scheme in terms of that's the foundation of it. That's everything they do. And that's the part of his scheme that has revolutionized this wave of defenses across the league that all his disciples are doing. He talked about Denard Wilson. It's the DC and the Titans now. And the guy that succeeded him in Baltimore, and Jesse Minter with the Chargers, et cetera, et cetera. That's crazy. That's awesome. That's good stuff. This is why I like this interview. These guys have a really good rapport and they bring some of the stuff out of them. And that was an outstanding question from Brock to elicit an unexpected answer.
4 other dudes that are pretty good at getting quarterbacks.
We got to execute them better, and I got to not call them in crappy situations. So three of those are on me, and I'd say one of them are on us. But we have them, Brock, and
I love his humility. I really do. I think that's a characteristic of really smart people. He's been called a genius. When he was hired, he was the Sean McVay of defense, et cetera. Smart people are humble because their intelligence comes from a genuine place.
it's a great tool. It's a great tool, and Tennessee ran it. A few of them yesterday that were good for them.
But also, I think the smartest people know if you're not humble, then you fall into the trap of thinking you know everything and you don't learn and you don't grow.
But we just don't do it. We put a lot of guys on line of scrimmage and to try to manipulate protections and set up other pressures. which is probably what people are talking about. Like we put 5 on the line and drop a guy, but a lot of the times it is like the off the ball player that is the guy dropping.
What do you call that if it's not a simulated pressure?
Just a 4-man rush.
Just a 4-man.
I thought he was going to use the word deception. I think that's all it is. It's going to be a 4-man rush. You just don't know who's rushing and who's not. So I think we're talking nuance here. It might very well be that what he's describing as not being a simulated pressure, the consensus of the analytics world and the commentators and us would call it a sim pressure
Rush, but with a complication,
we call it with some sauce,
some sauce.
Put some sauce on it.
Like
Right.
that.
So between simulations and sauce, you can present quite a few different looks to a
so that's cool because like for us, it's what we try to do. We try to make some simple things look more complicated to our opponent, and to our guys' credit, they can make that come to life pretty simply.
I love your quote after the game last night, talking about the depth on the team and some of the guys who have stepped in, and you said you were, quote, excited to see them play.
Yeah.
I mean, where does that come from? A true excitement to see the next guy up actually come in and play the game?
Well, it comes from seeing it in practice. It's really that simple. It's just something that is really important to us here and we've had this, it kind of like clicked, earlier in my career, like you see when.
So I saw something yesterday or early this morning online where everything that's going wrong down in Las Vegas, right, with Pete, Gino, and so much of what's happening and what's dysfunctional there on offense, which ultimately led to Chip Kelly being relieved of his duties today and Greg Olson getting promoted offensive coordinator, is absolutely terrible offensive line play, right? And it doesn't help. Their 2 best offensive linemen are injured. Colton Miller, Stone Forsythe playing in his place, having to face Myles Garrett yesterday. He got 3 sacks. And then Jackson Powers Johnson being hurt and out, I think, for the year. But they have 2 young offensive linemen that are rookies this year that have a lot of upside. And he is not playing them. Pete refuses to play them. He doesn't trust them when everybody else is asking him about him. And I think that's probably a sign that Pete is done, because this is a young league now. You have to play your young guys to balance the salary cap and everything else. And he just won't do it, despite having the worst offensive line in the league again. Followed him, I guess. Much, much different than what Mike is talking about here. And the cool thing is, we have seen him back up his words with action. Ty Okada, Drake Thomas. I'll tell you what, guys, this is going to be a whole nother show on its own. Seahawks don't need an inside linebacker next year. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of really cool ones in the draft, and if one falls to you, right, then maybe you take him because you can do some cool things with him, whatever, and you have competition. Ernest Jones, Tyrese Knight, now that he's healthy, we saw what he could do. Drake Thomas is legitimate. He's the starter. And then you saw what Patrick O'Connell did yesterday, and you have Chris Paul on the practice squad. They're good at inside linebacker. And the reason we know that they're good is because he's willing to reward those guys for what they do in practice and trust them and give them opportunities. And they're making him look like a genius.
Like young guys get a chance, and you're sometimes like, oh crap, so-and-so's got to play, or like that's a huge difference than, oh, so-and-so gets to play, that's what we want it to feel like. And that's how, and so that's critical to building depth. I mean, all those things.
Shout out to John Schneider.
But one of the things that I think that's important in our league is you have to get great reps and stack those over the course of the spring and the summer. Otherwise, guys don't develop as much. If you're just running card team looks all day and you're just stacking non-significant reps, well, you're not getting any better. So, some people are like, well, you can't take that many reps throughout the season. Well, yeah, what kind of reps, and who's taking the reps? Is it young? Like, there's time and a place for young guys to get reps, and it allows them to. And how do you structure your scout team? Like, do you let them go play football, or do you put them in a box and tell them to go bang their head against the wall, or jump double moves and that kind of crap, which we don't subscribe to that theory. We want our guys to go play and compete and take care of one another, but
Interesting.
they're working on their game as well. And a lot of times we want them to running our calls. So, but it's coming.
I don't think I've ever heard a coach talk about that. Doesn't mean they don't approach it the same way. I've never heard anyone articulate that before. That's fascinating. And it seems pretty inspired too.
From practice, like Patty O is just a guy that, we have an ongoing joke here is like, when are we going to block him? He's the mic. We got to block the mic.
It's pretty hilarious.
Stop
joke.
that kind of
That's
quick.
a really funny joke.
What, Patty O? No.
It's a running joke. We've got to block the mic.
Yeah, it's just like you're showing tapes like, hey, we got to block the guy in the middle right there.
Yes, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. He was pretty good yesterday. Hey, I got a fun perception reality, and we have Thanksgiving this week. So I have one Thanksgiving question. So you may have injury questions. Good luck on those. But I have one perception reality question. And that is when you grew up in the Northeast and down in Georgia, and you coached in the Northeast and in Michigan, and you looked from a perception from afar at the Seattle football fan, these 12s. And maybe you watched games, and certainly you played the Seahawks or whatever they came to you. But like just growing up, and you had this perception in football of like, okay, this is who the 12s are. And then the reality of living it as the head coach for the last year and a half plus, Mike. What's the perception versus the reality?
Well, let me. I made a mistake. I asked Dave, and Dave did remind me, so I dropped the ball on this. But like I wanted to lead yesterday's press conference. I wanted to lead this thing, and so I'm going to lead today's later press conference with a shout out to our 12s, because that was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Them traveling from all over everyone that I must have had multiple people tell me that the people were coming from Arizona and the plane was filled with 12s. That's crazy, right? Like, John was saying that his plane, they came down early to scout. Their whole plane was filled with 12s, and they're like, they're going Seahawks, on the plane on the way to Nashville. I mean, I've never heard anything like that before, and they were incredible yesterday. Just came out in waves. I mean, we almost anticipated them having to be on the silent count on offense. They didn't have to be, but I mean, what an absolute! I mean, it's just incredible showing by the 12s, man. So just so much respect. Thank you.
It was obviously easy decision for me once I got the news Friday that things had taken a turn with my dad, and I needed to come back here as quickly as possible. I was supposed to be at that game. I've only been to two away games in my history of being a fan and covering the Seahawks. A couple games at Arizona, including that 6-6 tie. What was that in 2016? Oh my God, probably the weirdest football game I've ever been to. And then drove down to Candlestick Park in, I want to say 2006 or 7. Seneca Wallace was starting because Hasselbeck was hurt. Well, one of the worst experiences I've ever had at a football game. Just these three dudes that were 49er fans stood behind us the whole game and just called our mothers' names and spit on it. It was horrible. I was supposed to be at that game, had tickets to that game because it's Nashville's only a 5.5 hour drive from where we're living right now. And got 2 tickets because I thought maybe there's a chance my fiance could come, but she was supposed to work. So it was, like I said, it wasn't a hard decision. I'm glad I got to watch the game with my dad, even though he wasn't responsive. I know he was there because his condition improved, his breathing improved during the game. And then he passed at 12:28 Pacific time, right as the third quarter was becoming the fourth quarter. But it just added a little extra special aspect to the game, watching it and knowing that I should have been there. And Brad, shout out to, I want to get the name right because I offered my tickets up to just give them to anyone who might be going. Brett, big thank you to Brett Geertsma. He was able to use the tickets, sent me some great pictures, and also sent me a picture of the barbecue he was eating to just kind of rub it in a little bit. Would have been my first time in Nashville. Really wanted some barbecue, but anyway, didn't get a chance to meet. I was going to be able to meet so many creators congregated there. I was going to get a chance to meet Jeff Simmons and Clinton Bonner in person for the first time, Adam Emmert from the Seahawkers pod, and then reconvene with people like Dana O'Gorman and Brendan Schultz and a lot of other of those. So thank you to Brett, and shout out to those of you, because man, we could hear you, we could see you. There's a video shot that I saw where a camera was on the field and it just went down the front row, and it felt like they were going from like the 20 to the 20, and it was just like 12s the whole way. Like they outnumbered Titans fans. Phenomenal turnout. That was awesome.
That was big time. That was awesome. And our guys loved it. They were talking about it. So that was really cool. But perception, Brock, is like, look, we don't want to go over there. We don't want to go to Seattle. Like, why do we don't, like, and that's because of the environment that they create. So, and then reality is it's real, it's real. And they're hungry for a great team, and for a team that I think brings energy and is representative of the things that are important to them. Sticking together and being tough, resilient, and playing great defense, which is what we're trying to do.
Between hungry and eat, you've kind of led perfectly, like a radio host to Thanksgiving. Top three,
oh, yeah, definitely on purpose.
Top three items on the Thanksgiving table. Top three have-tos.
It is stuffing, by the way. It's not dressing.
Dressing. Yeah. No,
agree.
Yeah, stuffing.
100% agree.
And then just pie, got to have all the different types. Pecan. It's pecan, not pecan. Pecan pie.
Ooh, good to know.
There's a spot for pumpkin pie, apple pie, definitely with ice cream.
Sweet potato pie.
Probably shows you where my priorities lie, which is not a good thing.
Carb guy.
Somewhere Spoon is listening to this and he's going to give me crap later because I enjoy ice cream on Saturday night. But turkey's okay. Ham, not as okay.
No.
You ever put the cheddar cheese on apple pie?
No.
It's like a New Hampshire, Vermont thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not a Boston thing.
You never tried that?
No.
All right.
What else is there? I'm not.
100% agree with Mike. Some people that I did see a little bit of this on Twitter today, and some of the response was like, there's apparently people that hate stuffing. I don't know how you live life. No. Trying to be more forgiving, do what you want to do, but stuffing is it. And this is one of my, again, this is why I like this show and reacting to it rather than the podium stuff. Turkey's okay. Ham is not okay. And all the pies. I agree with them there. All the pies. My brother-in-law is the kind of guy that you would never expect to be good at baking, because he is a nerd. He is a very successful executive tech guy. He came up through Microsoft. He was VP level. He's Facebook, Instagram, all of it. And he's a programmer. He writes code. And yet every Thanksgiving he brings a homemade pumpkin pie, including homemade crust. Not the kind that like I would do and get at the sheet at the store, which is fine, or the pre-made crust, and then a homemade Dutch apple pie every year. So he usually doesn't like football to be on in the background. We don't see eye to eye on much else. Pie, yes.
Stuffing's by far and away the best.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to simulate some of those things on the table, Brock. Just some simulated sides.
And I'm traditional with the stuffing. Like, I've messed around with like sausage in it, but no, traditional. Like it's the recipe on the box. A lot of butter, onions, sauteed celery. It can be cornbread stuffing. I'm fine with mixing up the bread, sourdough, white, whatever. And I've had some with cranberries in it, things like that. But I just buy it in the box, not stovetop, but actually make it from scratch. But I also learned something about 15 years ago that changed my mind. And I'm a cook, you guys. I am good in the kitchen. So I am often the one that makes all of Thanksgiving dinner, or at least handles the sides. 20 years ago, I stopped stuffing the turkey. First of all, the turkey takes way longer. Second of all, it's not all that safe. Like if it's undercooked, that can be a little dicey, but it just comes out better if you just cook it separately. Little advice for me.
You gotta take one side, and put one side on, take one side off.
Right. There you go. Coach, congrats. Nice win. Home game finally.
There we go. That's it. Also, why do people ever argue about sides? Make them all. That's what Thanksgiving is. Make stuffing, and if you don't want to eat it, don't eat it. Make the mashed sweet potatoes with marshmallows on it. If you don't want to eat it, don't eat it. That part of it, don't get mad. Just don't eat it. All right, that was fun. That was one of the most fun ones that I've seen. I do want to just give a couple of thoughts on the game and then remind you again that, sorry about that, tomorrow I'm going to do red flags and green flags, and I'll get into some of the things I think about this team generally and how they bode for the final 6 games of the season. I do think I want to say this. I don't want to call this guy out by name because I generally like the job that he does, but there was a host on local sports radio today that got really offended about the idea that, hey, the reason this game ended up being closer than we would have liked on the scoreboard, even though pretty much dominated it and felt comfortable, never felt like they were going to give up the lead, is because a very young quarterback is growing and had his best game. And he got so offended by that. And the analogy he used was, it's like when a baseball team says, oh, they called a guy up from Double-A and we'd never seen his stuff before. We didn't scout him, and so he kind of got us. No, that's not an excuse. You're the better team. You should have stomped that team. This guy's been doing this for a long time, and he still hasn't learned. The NFL is fucking hard. It's the reason. There's a reason Mike Macdonald, almost every locker room speech says, hey, we got that win. Wins are hard to come by in the NFL. Players are talented. You're talking about the best of the best on the planet. The best, 1,200 players when you do all the math in the world. The best 32 quarterbacks in the world. Cam Ward was a number 1 pick for a reason. He's exceptionally talented. And he was making plays in a way that he's capable of making plays yesterday. It takes a while for things to slow down for quarterbacks. It's a real thing. You can't just dismiss that because your team is supposed to win by 4 touchdowns. That's how you get some of the fucking shit on Twitter that is unbearable, where either somebody's elite or someone sucks and doesn't belong in the league. The truth is almost always in the middle. The other team's trying too. It's full of guys that are playing for paychecks, playing to feed their families, playing for their next contract, and playing out of pride. These guys really care about what they're doing. And that team had played some teams close, some good teams close. Talented players, quarterbacks, they're gonna reach a point where things start to slow down for them. And the plays that Cam Ward was making yesterday, I would have been a little more critical of this defense today and Mike Macdonald's game plan if Cam had been standing in the pocket, surgically shredding us with like tight window throws and layered throws all day. He wasn't doing that. He was making plays on the move and scrambling and eluding tacklers and making plays while he's being sacked. He hadn't been doing that up until this game. He was on pace for almost 70 sacks this year. He played his best game, and he's really talented. That's a real thing. And I thought it was really kind of short-sighted and a little bit amateurish and ignorant for that particular host to take that viewpoint. Anyway, sorry. We can get this off the screen. Let's talk about some of your stuff. All right. Let's get to the starred comment first. Thank you so much, OL734, for the super chat. I'm glad this came up right off the top. Hi, Dan. Question is the fact that Rashid Shaheed got 2 targets a product of the game plan, or is Shaheed Sam still not on the same page? I think it's a little bit of both. I do think it's difficult for a receiver to come in mid-season and develop chemistry with the quarterback. And I think I underestimated this a little bit. I think a lot of us did. We just thought, oh, he's been in the system. He played for Kubiak last year. He knows the scheme. He's just going to hit the ground running. But there's a chemistry situation. right? They haven't worked together. They didn't go to LA or wherever they went in the offseason and have those throwing sessions. They haven't had training camp together, OTAs and everything else. That throw that Emmanuel Forbes made the play on in the end zone that would have completely changed the game in LA last Sunday. Great play by Forbes, who was playing lights out, and kudos to the Rams for resurrecting him, and also shame on his original team, the Commanders, for giving up on him so early. Think they could use him now? That's a fail. That is an organizational fail to let a guy that talented go and have him so quickly start to show exactly why he was a first-round pick, right? But it was also underthrown by Sam. He just isn't used to Shaheed's speed yet. Now, let me just say this. Tomorrow night, red flags, green flags, we're going to talk about Rashid Shaheed. So I'll get a little deeper into it tomorrow. But I expected more. And they need it. With Torrey Horton out, they need it. John McGrath asking me about something I've been talking about for a week. I do. I could be wrong, but Mike Macdonald just talked about it again, and he talks about it constantly. If you show that you're the better player in practice, we're going to play you. Anthony Bradford's not on scholarship. He's not achieved that level of trust that you get to keep your spot no matter what. They love Jalen Sundell, and they played him a lot at guard in training camp, moved him around because when it looked like Olu was going to be the starter, and then he got hurt. This team wants to win a Super Bowl now. They don't care that it probably isn't their time. Like, the Rams have been building up to this for a while. This is the first year that I consider it kind of the first real year for the Seahawks, with your franchise quarterback in place, 6 new starters on offense, 3rd youngest roster in the league, all those things that we've talked about all year, where I think it's going to take one more offseason of knowing exactly what they need and bringing all the continuity back on offense that we brought back last offseason on defense, and building off of that. They are not going to accept Anthony Bradford's performance at right guard when they have a better option. We've seen that. They just won't. If you're the better player, you're going to play. And I fully expect when he comes back that he's going to get an opportunity to unseat Bradford at right guard. I do expect that. I hope I'm not wrong. No. X-Wing, I'm zooming right up to the top right now. Don't worry about it. Carly, thank you very, very much. That means a lot to me. If you want to read about my father, his amazing life, and our bond through sports, which, again, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today if it wasn't for that. It's on my Substack, and I made it free to everybody. I think the link is down below. Also, failed to mention this today, but nwforever.com will take you to my Patreon. Also, this QR code will take you to my Patreon, and that's where you can find all my content. Seahawks Forever, Mariners Forever, which I'm going to continue. I'll do another show this week as well, trying to build that back up. And my Substack is free. It's part of that. And also, those of you that are YouTube members should have gotten the link to also be included. I think Pro Bowl or higher on the Substack. If you haven't, reach out to me somehow, let me know, and I'll send you that link so that you can get in, or I'll add your email to the subscription list on Substack so that you can read it for free all the time. But to the post today, the tribute memoriam to my dad is free for all. So enjoy that if you can. By the way, let me just do this real quick. This was last game I ever got to take him to. It was 2015 Seahawks Steelers at home. It was the game, if you recall, where we only needed a first down at the end to clinch it. Ben Roethlisberger was playing the Steelers back and forth all game long. It was a shootout. We just needed a first down to ice the win. And Russell Wilson hit Doug Baldwin on a little drag route, and Baldwin took it 80 yards for the touchdown. So we won by 8 instead of 2, or 9 instead of 2. I guess they kicked the extra point. I had a chance to tell Doug that story shortly before I left my old career, right around the holidays, and he was in true Doug Baldwin form. He was incredibly appreciative of that story, and it was that Dad couldn't get around that well, and so this is the last game I ever took him to. And after the game, I felt terrible because you know how Ubers can't get to the stadium because it's too condensed, right? So you have to walk like 3 or 4 blocks to catch an Uber. And he's on a walker, well, not a walker. He had a cane that day. Can't move around that well. I felt horrible. I'm like, I can't ask him. He didn't care. He was so happy that he was at a game with his son again. And we ended up walking the 3 blocks or whatever. But that was the last game that I got to take him to. So thank you very, very much, Carly. I really appreciate that. Where did I leave off? Come on now, StreamYard. Give me a this is really this I really appreciate as well. Seahawk fan 1221. As a Seahawks fan from Chicago, where we lived for 6 months. The blizzard of 79. We moved there in the fall. We left in the spring. All I remember is 8-foot snowbanks. We had 18 inches of snow in 24 hours, 100 inches of snow that winter. I think to this day, it's still the craziest winter they ever had. They had to take abandoned cars and stack them up in Comiskey Park to get them out of the way. That's how crazy that winter was. So yeah, I'm familiar with Chicago. As a Seahawks fan from Chicago, I'm not able to watch most games, but that's why I'm grateful for channels like yours that keep me more in touch with the Seahawks. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Carly says, I'm not able to, I don't watch the 710 sports shows, but they're interesting. So I always like when you react to them. Maybe this will be just my regular Monday thing from now on, because I really do enjoy doing it. I think we get some extra insight from it. And it's not the normal, just regular. I usually react to the games right afterwards, right? Where you get to take a little different angle from it. And I don't think anyone else is doing it either. So, it's my thing. By the way, I think I might get to go to the Vikings game this Sunday because I'll be here, I think, through the weekend. We'll find out tomorrow when his service is scheduled. What's the score? It's probably over by now. Checking in. 6:27 left in the fourth. The Panthers were hanging in there, but the 49ers look like they're going to win. They're up 20-9 with the ball in their own end. Bummer. It's crazy. I mean, I guess if there's some silver lining as a Seahawk fan in how tough this division is going to be for a long time, it's that Robert Saleh and Chris Shula are absolutely going to get head coaching jobs this offseason. What Robert Saleh is doing with that defense to limit the Panthers to 9 points, and obviously haven't watched the game, a week after Bryce Young threw for over 400, is, with all those injuries they have, it's remarkable. It's incredible. Yeah, Dennis says, watch the show with Macdonald, Brock, and Salt. Good interview. Like apple pie a la mode. Absolutely. Who wouldn't like that? What kind of heathen wouldn't like ice cream on their pie? Also, Dennis chimed in too. I don't want to put it on the screen, but his dad is also and both his parents are having some health problems. So thinking about you, Dennis. Thank you. Let's see. Emerald City Spectrum, Corbin and those guys over there thinking about you today, Dan. Always appreciate you having me on the show and grateful for your friendship. Same, Corbin. One of my favorite things about doing what I'm doing now is the friendships that I have formed through this. And Corbin was one of the very first. I used to write for him when he was managing editor of Seahawk Maven. And I remember when Corbin was just doing film breakdowns on Twitter before he was on Locked On Seahawks, before he was a credentialed beat writer for the Seahawks. And to watch him grow and become what he is has been really fulfilling. Really proud of you, buddy, and honored to have you as a friend. So thank you. Thank you very much. Dennis says, I didn't mean for the show to turn into this, but Dennis says, great job, Dan. You deserve everything good that you get. You do a great job covering the Hawks. Thank you very much. I enjoy it. It's there are times when it's hard to do from a practical life standpoint, but to get to do every day what I want to do and what I love is really cool, and you guys make that happen. So thank you very much. Jeremy, it's another one. Jeremy says, I'm from Missoula, Montana. Love the Hawks. You kick ass, Dan. Thank you. Missoula is one of the many cities that I lived in. This is another thing I write about in the Substack piece. We lived kind of a military lifestyle when I was a kid because my dad worked for Union Oil Company. He was a credit manager. And back then there was no virtual work, right? They didn't have giant headquarters like they do now. They had small local satellite offices in small markets. So if you wanted to get a raise or take a promotion, you had to transfer. So I was born in Mount Vernon. We lived in Burlington until I was 5. We moved to Missoula, Montana till I was 8. So we lived on the hill. It was a new housing development at the time. So our landscaping wasn't in. And how the high clay content there. So our yard is just clay. So I'd be like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old out there just playing in the mud and the clay on the hill with the M above it. So yeah, I spent my time in Missoula, man. That's really, really cool. Thanks. X-Wing, how you doing, buddy? He says, I'm wondering if the Hawks were a bit mentally tired after last week, and this game was physical effort, but a little bit of downshift from the brain part. Absolutely. I think that's real. I underestimated it. But I'll say this, talent can overcome that. And I think what you saw, I think you saw two things. The Seahawks were a little obviously disappointed they didn't beat the Rams, so there might have been some of that at play. But also, what happened during the week? Everyone was just telling them how great they are despite the loss. National analysts, guys like Daniel Jeremiah, guys like Chris Long were saying, I think they are the better team, even though they lost. These guys hear that, even if they're not seeking it out. So maybe they felt a little too good. I don't want to say that. I don't think that's the way this team is wired. I think there is some letdown from that. Conversely, you saw the Rams come out and destroy the Buccaneers yesterday. I think for them, it was kind of a perfect storm of they won the game. They're in first place in the division. They have the number 1 seed now, but they were also pissed off because they weren't getting enough credit for the game. What'd they hear all week? Well, yeah, you won, but only because the field goal kicker missed a 61-yarder at the buzzer and their quarterback threw 4 interceptions, gave you short fields. You scored 2 of your 3 touchdowns, only having to go 29 yards total. They were pissed, and they're really good. And also, it looks like they might have upgraded right tackle with Rob Havenstein going out and the rookie coming in. He played really well. So, yeah, you can react to that in different ways. Dennis says, didn't like the way the schedule was. Wish the Rams played the Texans this upcoming Sunday because that defense is on a roll, and the Rams schedule is cake compared to our schedule. I disagree. Here's why. Here's what I'll tell you. So the Seahawks play the Rams week 16 the Sunday before they play the Colts. That is no easy task. Jonathan Taylor and all of that, even though Daniel Jones seems to have come back to earth a little bit, it's kind of remarkable how he and Sam Darnold's careers have sort of mirrored each other, right? Although Sam's is a little longer. But Jonathan Taylor and everything else, they got some weapons. They got some, they can do some cool stuff on defense. So that's not an easy game to play right before such a huge game 4 days later. The Rams play the Lions. And I know the Lions have been disappointing this year, but they're physical. They're going to get you. They're going to, on offense at least, they're going to make you work, and they're going to work that defense. I'm not so sure coming off playing the Lions is any easier for the Rams than playing the Colts before that game. So, yeah, to get there is a little easier, but so is ours. Are you worried? Are you as worried about going to Atlanta now with all their injuries and with Kirk Cousins playing? And the Vikings game looks way different this Sunday than it did even 3 or 4 weeks ago. Even if J.J. McCarthy plays, I'm a J.J. McCarthy believer in the long term, but he's struggling right now. I'd love to face him on Sunday, but we might not. we might actually be facing undrafted free agent Max Brosmer out of Minnesota because McCarthy experienced concussion syndromes on the flight home. He's in the protocol. And we have seen the trend in this league is it is not as easy to get through the protocol as it used to be. I don't know if they've changed their parameters or not, but it seems like it's almost a given now that it takes 2 weeks for guys to get back. So I think there's a really good chance that both these teams take care of the next 2 weeks. I don't have the Rams schedule in front of me, but I've looked at it, and you're right. After that 3-game run, Niners, Seahawks, Bucks, I know they had it easy for a couple of weeks, and my goodness, they went 3-0 during that run, for crying out loud. They're good. The Rams are the best team in football right now, I think, bar none. They're ahead of the curve from where we are. Going to talk more about that tomorrow night. Let's see. Dennis says, and thanks for bringing this up again, because I'm going to wrap this up in the next 12, 13 minutes. Here's why. Dennis says, always watch you both in your shows. You guys are number one apart and together. Love the film shows between you and Bryce Coots. Do Cam Ward need someone to develop him the right way? And Sam has now. That's a huge hire for the Titans. Now, I don't think it necessarily needs to be an offensive coach. Maybe it is. The Titans have made some really shitty decisions. They should have kept Mike Vrabel. That was a huge mistake, right? So maybe a guy like Mike McCarthy makes sense there. Lends some stability. Maybe the ceiling's not as high, but the floor is probably higher. Like Mike McCarthy could probably get you, because they got some pieces there on defense. They got a couple decent offensive linemen. Shamir Dike is way more of a player than I thought he was when I saw him the week of the Senior Bowl last week. I didn't think he was anything special. It shocks me they took this long to give Xavier Restrepo some run. But they got some guys there. And they got Cam Ward. So maybe a guy like McCarthy can get you to 8-9 wins quicker. Or maybe you go get a Chris Shula or a Robert Saleh. I don't know if Saleh would want to go there because he's experienced working for bad ownership, whereas Shula just wants an opportunity. So maybe he would make more sense. And maybe Mike Shula then, or Chris Shula takes Mike LaFleur with him, who's the offensive coordinator under McVay in LA. They go there together. That could be a really good situation for Cam. That could be really, really cool. Let's see. Oh, but as far as the Bryson goes, I think his show starts at 8. So I want to get you guys out of here. I know a lot of you are common viewers. I want to get there too, right? I want to pour myself another glass of wine. I want to hang out with Bryce and Michael. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. Let me just check right now. Hold on. I could text him, but then I don't know if he'll get right back to me. Let me see. I did text him earlier today and tell him I was going to schedule it this way. Nope, he never responded. So maybe, okay. Well, let's just check. You're right. As of an hour ago. So I'll check in with him when I get off the air. Not as important that we get off by 8 then. Just make sure everything's okay. I want to say that as well. I was talking about, what an honor it's been to become friends with Corbin through this. There's all the guys on the Seahawks syndicate. There's others. I consider Clinton Bonner a close friend, and we've never met in person from the Seahawkers. But Bryce is a guy that 2 years ago, I think it was Chris Clough that put us together. He texted me, the former beat writer for the Seahawks, who's been on the show and needs to be on the show again. It's been too long. Reached out to me. He said, hey, I know this guy. He's from Vancouver, British Columbia. He's starting a podcast. He really admires you. And he would love to talk to you. Can you reach out to him? Because we weren't following each other or whatever. So I don't think we could DM. And not only have we become co-collaborators, co-members of the Seahawks syndicate with Mookie Alexander and Brandon Kane, 2 other guys that I consider friends now that I've become honored to know. But Bryce and I have become very, very close. And so that's just another benefit of doing this, and really, really love it. John says, yeah, frustrating. They don't use Shaheed as a deep threat. Feels like they're wasting his speed and talent by not making defenses respect it. I think without checking right now, does he have more carries than catches? That has to change. And I had predicted in this game that they would take a deep shot to him early. They need to do that even if it's just for show. But they need to get those guys on the same page, especially with Horton out. Like there has to be a second option. I mean, there is right now, and it's AJ Barner. I will say this though, and I'll go into more of this tomorrow when I do my red flags, green flags. I was really encouraged. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, or at least I have, how Kubiak schemed up a couple of things in the flats. There was one to Barner, and they looked schemed to me. They didn't look like checkdowns. I haven't watched the all 22 yet. I'll probably do that later tonight or tomorrow. And then a couple times to Walker. Get him involved in the passing offense. Charbonnet too. I like him better in space than I do taking handoffs. Although there were some really positive signs from the running game. Don't want to give too much away about tomorrow again. X-Wing asks, how much of a jump in the run game this week do you think is because we have Olu at center? I think he helps. But I think more so it's just week 12 now, and these guys are learning the scheme and what their angles are and their target points and everything else and all the intricacies. It's such a timing-based and technique-based scheme that at some point it was going to kind of pop. And they averaged more than 4 yards a carry again yesterday between the two backs. And also, man, I think it's a failure on my part that we've gone an hour 20 and I haven't talked about Gray Zabel. I said it on record. I didn't want him to play this week. Like, I want to see Christian Haynes. We could probably beat the Titans without him. But Jeffrey Simmons is Jeffrey Simmons. He showed that again yesterday. He is legit. And not only did Gray Zabel play 7 days after it looked like maybe he had a season-ending knee injury where he had to be helped off the field by two guys, and he was very emotional, but he didn't look slow off the snap. He didn't look like he was favoring the leg, and he kept Jeffrey Simmons at bay for the most part, even though you could feel Simmons' presence. Unbelievable. Just add another check mark to the list of reasons that Gray Zabel was such a great draft pick this last year. It was unbelievable effort from him. I do think Olu has helped solidify that spot, and he might be a little bit more stout than Sundell, as we've talked about in the past. But I really want to see Sundell at right guard when he comes back and see what that combination looks like. Let's see. John says, hey, easy way to fix it is to throw to Shaheed more often. Just saying. I'm an old KISS fan, but I also like the acronym KISS. It's an old coaching acronym. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't overthink. I started reading the Michael Silver book. I think it's called The Why is Everything. And it traces, it's basically a book about how fucking genius Kyle Shanahan is and Sean McVay. And it traces their origins and everything. I'm only about 10% of the way through the book. I was reading it on the plane. Which, by the way, I tried to relax on the plane. I was hoping I could sleep. It's about a 5.5 hour flight. That didn't happen. It was the most anxiety-inducing flight I've ever had. I always have mild flight anxiety anyway. But it was a brand spanking new plane, like so new that the seats weren't even broken in yet, so they weren't that comfortable. But they didn't have the Wi-Fi installed yet. So I had to fly for 5.5 hours with Wi-Fi. So I was completely disconnected, knowing that I was rushing home to try and get there before my dad passed and having no way of getting updates from my sister or my mom, if anything should have changed. So 5.5 hours of trying to fall asleep, trying to distract myself, terrified that when we landed, I was going to get a text message came through that said I was too late. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, but come on, Alaskan. Someone told me, someone that works for Alaskan, actually. In fact, was it X-Wing? Somebody on Twitter told me that they struck a deal with Starlink, and that might have been part of the delay that they're outfitting all the planes with that, which should mean great things for the future for Wi-Fi on Alaskan flights. Holy crap. You're closer to the satellites up there, right? Is it that simple? Keep it simple, stupid. I like it. Is this the comment of the night? Bradford, LOL. I'll say this. Look, people are doing it again with the bad reps and everything. Just stop. This is kind of why I think I'm going to cut back. Also, little hint. I'll talk about this more tomorrow night. I think during games now, I'm just going to be on the Discord, which there's only a few of you in there, but that's part of the Patreon, one-stop shopping, everything under one roof. But also being a member on YouTube, you have access to the Discord as well. I can send you the link if you don't have it already. I think that's where I'm going to spend games. Not on Twitter. It just drives me crazy how everything is one extreme or the next. And it's Bradford doesn't belong on the field. Well, nobody's better or they'd play him. They don't trust Bryce Cabledew or Mason Richmond yet. They don't see Josh Jones as a guard, and Jalen Sundell's on injured reserve. So even without him, they are still on pace to give up the least number of sacks they've ever given up in a season, including when they only played 14 games. That is progress. And now we're seeing the running game starting to come around. So yeah, you can pick 5 plays a game where he looks, it doesn't matter. There's one of those on almost every team. They can't fix it right now. So stop focusing on it and focus on the general results. With this offense, top 5 in scoring, no one ever expected that. So just relax. Let's see. This is a good point, Dennis. JSN is the perfect combination of humble and driven. That's where greatness comes from. John, tackling has been an issue all year. There were some great tackles. O'Connell, how many tackles did he have in that game? I think he had 9 total. But how many of them were like teaching tape? Like textbook tackling. They need to get better. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, says back up the Brinks truck. There's a good chance JSN, when he signs his contract, becomes the highest paid player in the league. It'll be the way the Seahawks like to structure contracts. They'll be comfortable with it. But the total numbers and all of that, whether it has void years or not, whatever, it'll probably come in so the agent can say biggest contract of all time. Yeah, saw a stat today, John, that's really, really cool, that he's still on pace to break Calvin Johnson's all-time record for yards in a season, but he's doing it in a way that you can't say, well, there's an extra game now. 17 instead of 16. Because his number of targets, he's on pace. Calvin Johnson had over 200 targets that year in a 16-game season. JSN's on pace for 145 targets with more yards. So the extra game doesn't matter. That would be remarkable. Let's see. OL says, some out there thinks JSN is like Jerry Rice. I do think there's a similarity in how they're very smooth, like butter in their movements. It's not violent and dynamic. He makes it look easy. Somebody said a couple weeks ago, it looks like he's on skates. I think that's a good analogy. That's what Rice was like. They also, neither of them have elite speed, although JSN, I'm pretty sure, is faster than Jerry Rice was. Wasn't Rice a 4.6 40 guy? I think so. Observer says if Tennessee had another 2 minutes, they might have tied or won that game. If there was another 2 minutes, Seattle would have made different calls on defense. They would have played it differently. Game script would have been different. I never really subscribed to the alternate reality thing. Kudos to Cam and that offense for driving down at the end and scoring that last touchdown to cut it to 1. But there's a couple of plays that if you could play the what if game with the Seahawks too, where it's like, well, what if Chaz Surratt and Ty Okada aren't out with injuries and they're in on that punt return unit like they usually are, and they don't run that back for a touchdown? Like, we can play that game. So it was as comfortable as a 7-point win can get. Also on that second to last drive where the Seahawks went 3 and out, they wouldn't have just tried to run the ball every time. They would have been more aggressive. They would have called different plays on offense. They might have put a drive together and put another score on the scoreboard. So try not to eat yourself up with pessimism by like falling into that trap. Somebody beat me to it. Sorry. I should have looked ahead. OL734. Same thing. I like that. Some of you just do the work for me. I'll just sit back and you guys do the podcast. Let's see. Yeah. Cam Ward was a pain in the butt. That's a good description of what he's like when he's at his best. Although I'll never forgive him for the game in Seattle, the Apple Cup in Seattle, that we should have beat that Husky team. And I think it was 4th down at the end. And he threw incomplete, turnover on downs, ended the game. Touchdown would have won it. And the seas parted in front of him. He could have run for the first down and more. So when he was scrambling and making plays yesterday, I was like, why didn't you fucking do that in the Apple Cup? I disagree with this. They've always had a good plan. Baker didn't really hurt him with his feet that much. He had a couple runs, but it wasn't a constant thing, not like what Cam did yesterday. He was pretty much played in structure. The problem with the Tampa Bay game is that we had a bunch of injuries, suffered 2 more during the game. Game plan was vanilla. Mike Macdonald beat himself up for it afterwards. They just didn't play well on defense. I mean, Baker pretty much carved us up from the pocket. But Kyler, they keep Kyler in check. Jaden Daniels didn't do anything. They always have a good plan because their edges are so disciplined in their lanes. Maybe they didn't quite take Cam's ability seriously because Mike talked about it in that show where he had been taking a lot of sacks. I think maybe they I don't want to say underestimated. Maybe they were a little overconfident in their ability to get to him and take him down, but they usually have a good plan for mobile quarterbacks, I think. Let's see. John says, love Largent too, but JSN's clearly the best wide receiver Seahawks have ever had. I think you can say he's the most talented. When Steve Largent retired, he held every single significant lifetime receiving record. So I would hesitate personally to say he's the best yet. He's certainly on track. And I think it's pretty easy to say he's the most talented. And also, and this is not an original idea, I don't know who said it, so I can't give credit. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. But I saw this earlier today that you can make the argument that pretty convincingly JSN's the best wide receiver the Seahawks have ever drafted. Because Steve Largent was drafted by the Houston Texans and we traded for him? Or we picked him up on waivers when he was cut by the Oilers. One or the other. Yeah. Yeah, Dennis. Charles Grant's one of them, and you're talking about the Raiders, right? And I can't remember the other one. John says, sorry about Dad. Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. OL says stuffing is at number 1. Got to have gravy on it, though. Gravy is the tie that binds. Like, I don't know about you, but so my typical Thanksgiving plate, and we kind of have gotten away from the traditional thing. My fiance and I have kind of, sometimes we're together, sometimes we're not because she was traveling. Now we're together. Now we travel together. She's a traveling nurse. So we were actually going to do a traditional dinner this Thanksgiving, but I'll be here instead. Sounds like we're going to, but we had gotten away from it a little bit. We do Chinese food, or sometimes we would do ham. Don't tell Coach Macdonald. But I do, turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, and sweet potatoes, both. And then canned jellied cranberry sauce. Have to have that. I'm huge on that. Not the one with the cranberries in it. Fuck that. I don't want chunks, just the jellied stuff. And then I have started contributing in the last 7 or 8 years. An ex-girlfriend of mine introduced me to a recipe it's called corn casserole. It's basically like really moist cornbread, but with like chunks of corn kernels in it and stuff. And so that's on the plate, and then a roll, And then this is a weird thing with our family. I've never seen anyone else do this. We usually have black olives and green olives too. So that's all in there. And then I put gravy on the whole fucking thing. All of it. So that's how I roll. Yeah, sweet potato pie is hit or miss for me. It tastes so much or so close to pumpkin pie that I don't see the point. Made it one year and won't make it again just because it just doesn't elevate. It doesn't raise the bar at all. Doesn't raise the bar. Let's see. Now, there are two different ways of doing this. John says candied sweet potatoes with melted marshmallows are probably my favorite. So I think you're talking about like diced sweet potatoes with like a candied glaze, which is usually some form of like brown sugar, honey. Some people will put like bourbon in it, right? What my family has done is we mash them and then do the mini marshmallows on top, broil it so they get nice and browned and melted on top. The funny thing is, most people for Thanksgiving actually use yams. I know they're all in the same family, sweet potatoes and yams, but sweet yams are the ones that are that dark, almost orange pumpkin color. Sweet potatoes are like that light green color. Everyone else uses the dark orange ones. Our family always used the light green ones. So it kind of looks weird on the plate. And it probably all tastes the same. I don't think it matters. That's just what we've done. But yeah, so good. And hey, I know I kind of dissed stovetop earlier. OL. I've had stovetop for some Thanksgivings. There's kind of a modified, reduced Thanksgiving, like a plan B that I'll do when it's either just a smaller gathering. I've even had Thanksgivings before where I've just been alone. I may have done this the first year my fiance and I were dating because she was traveling on a nursing contract, where I would just, instead of doing a whole turkey, I would go to Costco and get their just their isolated chicken breast. You ever had that one? It's like fully cooked already, and it's phenomenal. It tastes just like you cooked your own turkey, and these are the leftovers. So I've bought those before and just made sandwiches out of it. That's fantastic. Or you can just heat it up for a little bit in the oven, and I've done that before in a pinch. And then you just get stovetop. It's great. It's whatever. It's fine. Or sometimes maybe the portion size doesn't work out right and you have all the leftovers, but there isn't enough stuffing left over, or someone took too much of it home with them. And so you just get a box of stovetop. It's fine. And sometimes then maybe I'll even do the cornbread version. Yeah, OL says don't like raisins in it. When I was a kid, my mom used to chop up the gizzards from the turkey and put it in the gravy. It was fine, but like I stopped doing it. All right, let's see if I can kind of catch up because I think I'm way behind. The Tez, always good to see you, man. By the way, I appreciate the passion and the effort that you put into some of your replies. Some of them are super, super long, but I love that. I love your fandom and your commitment to the team and your passion about it. Best wishes to you and your family, Dan. Sorry about your dad. Love Montana. Personally prefer Dillon to Missoula. Never been to Dillon. Only know Dillon because at the end of the Yellowstone series, that's where Rip and Beth bought their ranch and moved to, right? Yeah. That's all I know about it. The last time we drove through, I really wanted to go there and down to that area and see the actual Yellowstone ranch. I think they like rent guests the houses out there. I think that'd be really cool sometime. It was a 5-day drive and I just didn't want to take an extra couple hours to go see that, but I was a huge Yellowstone fan. So one of these days I'll get out there and see it. Thank you for reminding me, Dennis. Seahawks Syndicate, great show as well. You guys rock. Seahawks Syndicate we've gone bi-weekly now through the rest of the season anyway. So Wednesday night, me, Brandon Kane, Mookie Alexander, Bryce Coots will be doing the Syndicate. It's my turn to host. We'll be doing that Wednesday. Great. Gather the family around while you're having drinks, hanging out, getting ready for Thanksgiving the next day and join us on the Seahawks Syndicate. Here's my reaction to that. Wait, I want to go to this because I forgot that I grabbed this little clip. This is Mike Macdonald yesterday. He's not always the most emotional guy, but this was cool. Yeah, you read it. Let's play that again. Let's fucking go. Yeah. We don't see him get fired up like that much. So that was cool to see. Anyway, that's how I feel about the Syndicate this week. That's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let me make sure I don't miss any. Starred. Yeah, this I loved. Dennis says Zabel said he circled the game because he said Simmons is a great DT and wanted to test himself. Love it. We talked about this about JSN earlier. I think Zabel has that great, that great combination of humility and also drive, and he's going to be a great one. I do think Gray Zabel will has all pro honors in his future. I do. Charlie Unicorn says Bradford's your right guard for better or worse. The team's rolling with him. I do think they're going to give Sundell an opportunity to take that spot. I was thinking about this today as I was driving around running some errands. And here's how I'd phrase this. And again, this is something I'll get a little deeper into tomorrow night on red flags and green flags. You can win the Super Bowl with this team the way it's constructed right now. But having someone like Bradford that weak of a link at an important position increases the margin for error. You have to be more perfect in other areas to overcome it. Does that make sense? Yeah, Charlie, 11 games now with 75 plus receiving yards, 11 consecutive games. Only 2 other players have ever done that in the history of the NFL. Cooper Kupp during his Triple Crown season. What was that? 22. And Marvin Harrison Sr., Hall of Famer. And a great point by Kick Up. Good to see you, buddy. JSN missed like a full game because of the blowouts. Pulled him early. Yeah. Good point. Imagine if New Orleans had been closer, Washington had been closer. John says, saw they signed Brendan Rice. Any chance we see him at wide receiver this season? I don't think so. I think if we see him at wide receiver, things have gone really wrong. Remember, Mike Macdonald said last week that every player that's on injured reserve is on track to return when they're eligible. I think we would see Derek Young way before Brendan Rice. I think we saw Philip Bobo get some reps on Sunday. He's already been cut by 2 other teams. He's not a dynamic athlete. I don't think we'll see him. And there's other guys ahead of him in the pecking order. Is Tyrone Broden still in the practice squad? Dennis says, when do you think they'll sign JSN to that big bag? JSN flows like water with a quickness. Well, it won't be until next offseason. So he's just finishing his 3rd year. This offseason, they don't extend contracts 2 years before they're over. This offseason, they'll exercise his 5th year option. Duh. And then next offseason, they'll negotiate a contract with him. Typically, their big extensions happen like the first week of training camp historically, but I think this one might be a little bit different, or maybe it happens earlier in the offseason so they can just set their cap and know what their situation is. So it'll be 2027 heading into the season. Charlie says Cam Ward was more mobile than I thought he would be. Then you didn't watch him at WSU. At Miami, he stayed in the pocket a little bit more, but at Wazoo, he used his feet a lot. Very, very, very mobile. Similar question. John says, why don't they let Sam run more often when he gets pressured? Sam is very mobile, can pick up the big yards at times. It does frustrate me at times. You've heard Bryce Coots say over and over and over again, not enough bootlegs in this offense. I've said where are the design runs, and there was one play in particular. I can't remember the situation now during the game. I think was it a 4th down or a 3rd down where he did the bootleg to the left, tried to throw back, the way he does, probably as good as anyone in the league. And it was in the red zone, and there was 15 yards of green in front of him. I thought he could have easily picked up the 1st down. I think he's just not thinking in those terms, but that's up to the quarterback coach, the offensive coordinator. Like, encourage him to do that more often. Those are easy yards. Yeah, Kick Up says JSN will pass Largent when all is said and done. Absolutely. Ooh, John says Hawaiian pretzel roll slider burgers with garlic butter glaze for Thanksgiving this year. I've become a big fan of pretzel buns in the last couple of years. I think I had this perception when they first came out that they would be like pretzels, firm, too hard for a burger. They're not. They're soft. They're delicious. They're gorgeous. Good call. What? X-Wing Dispatch. What's your relation to X-Wing? Are you the partner? I see your olives and I raise you a turkey with a tan line. Mom made a tinfoil bikini for the bird one year instead of a boring tinfoil tent. That is so great. I love it. And Charlie says, hey, stovetop's great for the huge gatherings, like 40 people. Yeah, that makes sense. It's hard to make scratch stuffing for that many people because you don't have the oven space. Definitely would have to have double ovens, but that might not even be enough. And then Dennis also thumbs up on the gravy on everything. That a baby. Oh, brining a turkey's great, John. If you have, like, we don't all have walk-in refrigerators in our house like we do in a restaurant. I've brined turkeys in restaurants before. But if you live somewhere where it's cold enough, you can just put it outside. I mean, that absolutely. I've tried every method of cooking a turkey, except I've never deep fried one. My fiance and I were going to do that because she insists on it. We were going to do that, but we won't be together this year on Thanksgiving. But I have tried, the traditional way, stuffed, unstuffed, with a tinfoil tent. I have tried the baking bags; those actually work pretty good, and they it cuts some of the time. And then I've tried, and this is a method I really believe in, cooking the turkey upside down, because then the juices flow into the breast, and so it's much more juicy and moist. The only problem with that is it doesn't, it from an aesthetic standpoint, because you get the indentations on the breast from the rack that it sits in, and it doesn't brown up and get all crispy on top. But if all you care about is like the moist tenderness of the turkey breast, try that. Flip it upside down. Phenomenal. And it cooks quicker also. John says syndicate before Thanksgiving. Spoiler alert. So one of the things my dad was obsessive about is hats. He has a massive hat collection. Baseball caps, of course. And then when his best friend passed away a couple of years ago, he inherited like 2 giant bags of more baseball hats. Some sports related, some not. And then, but top hats, fedoras, newsboys, bowlers. I'm looking up on the shelf. He has 2 fucking Stetson cowboy hats. Expensive. Shouldn't have been spending the money. Never wore them. It was just kind of an obsession. So we've talked on the syndicate before because of the picture that we have where we look kind of like gangsters, mobsters. And I think Bryce and Mookie are wearing hats in that picture. We've talked about like kind of dressing the part at certain times. We missed an opportunity at Halloween. So let's just say I may have a fedora tomorrow or some sort of headwear. Yeah. Charlie says that clip of Mike Macdonald. Oh, you mean this one? Was after the 4th and 1 stop. The real 4th and 1 stop, because the one they reviewed was bullshit. He did not get that 4th down. John says, do you think Zabel being so good will change the way JS looks at drafting a line in a positive way? I don't necessarily think it's all just because Zabel worked out. I think it's the process that went into selecting Zabel in the first place, which was driven in large part by input from John Benton and Rick Dennison and Steve Hutchinson. But yeah, seeing it work, like in my latest mock draft, I had him taking Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. Very similar. Athletically, mindset, tenacity, all that. I do think, though, they're going to add a veteran this offseason to upgrade the offensive line, not just add another rookie. It's already the youngest line in the league. Maybe they take another shot at Cesar Ruiz from the Saints, who's obviously a fit. Maybe they go all in, depending on how the season goes. Like if we end up, let's say we go to the divisional round and we get knocked out, and it's because the offensive line just isn't championship quality yet. Like that's the thing that they identify that's like holding us back. Because really, you look around the rest of the roster, it's like there's no other glaring weaknesses. I know it would be hard because they have so many other guys to extend. And now maybe Kenneth Walker has gotten himself back in the conversation. Maybe Reek Woolen has gotten back in the conversation. I don't know, because Kobe Bryant's made himself some money, bet on himself, turned down an extension before the season. Now I think he's making some money. They're going to have to pay, right? Could they structure it in such a way that they could go get Tyler Linderbaum if the Ravens are stupid enough to let him get to free agency? I don't know, but I think they need to add a veteran there to balance out all of the youth. That's just a gut feeling. It's a hunch. All right. A lot of Montana guys on here. I like it. Yep. Michael says more K9 in the passing game, please. I agree. Okay. Yeah. X-Wing Dispatches, Mrs. X-Wing. You met us at the first Brewery Live night. Oh, thank you for reminding me. I am falling down on the job. Let's go. Let me see here. Hold on. Let's do this. My gosh. These guys have been so good to me, and I completely dropped the ball today. Shout out to Fast Fashion Brewing on First Avenue in Soto, across the street from Showbox Soto, right next door to Hooverville. Their Crop Top Bavarian Pilsner has been named by a national publication as one of the 20 best craft beers in the nation. And they have so many more than that. Every beer that I've tried from them is fantastic. They also have these incredible scratch homemade pizzas. Check it out. Say hi to Matt Storm, his dad Randy. They own and run the place. Tell them tell them I sent you. They have an incredible lineup of beers. There's a beer there called It's a Hazy that Sean Kemp collaborated on. So it's called Rain Man. Also delicious. Their German Pilsner is fantastic. Go check out Fast Fashion Brewing. Proud to have them as a sponsor. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Dennis says, please tell me the Seahawks are going to keep this coaching staff for 2 years. I had been saying ever since people started talking about Clint Kubiak as a potential head coaching candidate, he lacks many elements of his personality that I think owners are looking for to mobilize a fan base for a struggling team. I just don't think he's there yet. I also don't think he's quite there as an offensive coordinator. And I feel even more strongly that way after starting to read this book, which I'll be digging into a little more tonight now that Bryce isn't doing his show. Got some time in my hands. The Why is Everything by Michael Silver, where talking about the next level that Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay are at. They're like a step ahead of defenses. They're deciphering defenses, learning their rules, and calling things specifically to try and attack that. I'm not sure Clint Kubiak's there yet. In his career, he's never called one place 2 years in a row. And I think the continuity they have now with Benton and Dennison and Out, and those guys aren't going to jump anywhere else right now. Andrew Janoko, who I think might be the guy that they're grooming to maybe take over someday if Clint Kubiak should move on. Jake Peets. I think that entire staff comes back. Unless one of those guys gets poached. I mean, maybe a team throws a bunch of money at Andrew Janoko or Jake Peets to like get some of what the Seahawks have. But I'm not so sure. I think this entire staff comes back. And that conversation, I said it earlier, but that conversation we had this offseason about this defense where we saw them come together and gel last year, and then they all came back intact this year. I think it was 15 players that started a game, 9 players that played 300 or more snaps. We saw it from the get-go. The defense was ready to roll, and they've even gotten better during the year. The offense, way different. Transition, 6 new starters, new coaching staff, new quarterback. Bring all of them back. Upgrade with one more really good offensive lineman. Bring back Rashid Shaheed, a healthy Torrey Horton. All the tight ends are back. Decide who you want at running back, but those are guys you can kind of mix and match during the offseason. And then that whole coaching staff and another year in this offense now with Sam Darnold leading it. That's when I think you can really, really see the growth. So, yeah, absolutely. I think they'll all be back. John, do it. And tell Matt that you're an avid watcher of the show. I'm not promising this. Maybe he buys you a beer. It's good stuff. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Almost 2 hours. Thank you again for all of you who have responded to me and with condolences about my dad. We'll be finding out tomorrow when the service is. Really excited to find that out. It's he's going to be buried at the Veterans Memorial Cemetery here in Maple Valley, or Covington, I think technically it is, with a 3-gun salute, like the whole thing. Really, really, it'll be really cool to see. So looking forward to spending Thanksgiving with my family and helping Mom through this transition and with some things around the house and stuff like that. There's a lot to do. And again, if you want to click the link down in my description, read the Substack. Since I've started my Substack, it's the most views I've ever had, and the response has been really, really great. So I appreciate that. It was very cathartic for me to write that this morning. I don't think if I had written that, if I'd waited, I don't know if I could have gotten through this live stream today. I've known for a long time that this day was coming. And to be honest, he gave us about 10 more years than I thought he was going to give us. And I am convinced, you cannot convince me otherwise. This is my final thought. With everything shitty happening in the world today, we have to cling to these little moments of hope, these little miracles, right? I am convinced, even though he was unresponsive the last 48 to 72 hours of his life, but there's evidence out there. And again, my fiance is a nurse, and she reminded me of this, that even in that state, when people are near death, they hear everything. And some people have come back from that state and recounted their memories. I heard everything you said. Here's what it was. Here's what you were doing. I think he hung on long enough for me to get home. And then he hung on through the night so that we could watch a little bit of one more game together. So there are good things that happen in this world despite all of the shit. So thank you so much for all of your sentiments and your support, and for all of you, those that have lost loved ones, condolences to you. Those who are dealing with loved ones who are sick, or maybe you're sick yourself. Sending all the positive vibes out there that I can. And best way to deal with any of this is by leaning on each other. And I've gotten to experience a lot of that. And a lot of that has come from you. I feel the positive energy and the vibes. Thank you very, very much. All right, you guys. My new little mixer here doesn't have all my cool rock music in it. So we're going to just take you out in silence today. But we'll end the show the way we always do. Join me tomorrow. I'm going to do red flags, green flags. Really kind of excited about that approach. Talk about the last 6 games. The things that I see from this team that I think might hold them back from winning a Super Bowl, and the teams that give me hope that they still can. And then Seahawks Syndicate on Wednesday before we all enjoy Thanksgiving together. So forever and always, go Hawks. Thanks, you guys. Really appreciate you.